Hey everybody, Tim here with today's episodes of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Season 7, Episodes 19 and 20, Strange Bedfellows and Changing Face of Evil. So this is the next part in the 9-part episode. So this was a really good, it's the whole end chapter is a great story. For this one, we have some conflict going on between Cassidy Yates and Sisko, Mrs. Sisko now. So she talks about how she's known some of the people in her crew for like over 10 years, but now the Bajorans are talking to her and like asking her for advice for her family, for their kids, for stuff like that. And she talks about how it's very different to go from the wife, or to be going from the girlfriend of the emissary to the wife of the emissary. So it's really interesting. Probably one of my favorite scenes is Winn calls Worf and Ezri into the room, and he's talking to them about like how he's going to torture them and how he's going to do this and that, and he brings up how what would Dr. Bashir think about Ezri being captured, and Worf just instinctively doesn't even think about it. It's just like snap and kills Winn 5-7. So we'll see one more Winn, but I just thought it was really funny. He didn't even think about it, just boop, kills him. We see some more of the Pahwraiths, especially when it comes to Kai Winn, which I'll get to in a minute. I really liked how Quark kept pouring a drink for Ezri at the bar, where he kind of gets into it with Dr. Bashir and O'Brien about like, oh, this is morbid and you should stop doing this. And Quark is basically, well, you know what, you can go fuck yourself. This is my bar, and keeps pouring the drinks. And I mean, that's special. I really liked how he was willing to go out of his way to pour a shot for her, for those that are not present, I guess. We finally start to see more of the conflict between Dumar and Winn, where he talked about how like 500,000 Cardassians were killed by the Klingons, and he keeps bringing it up like, you know, my Cardassian brothers are under attack, and Winn's like, oh, we'll get there. We know exactly all about it, and we're going to take care of it. And then all of them are killed, and Winn's like, what's going on? Like, you said you were going to do something. And Winn's like, oh, they were collateral damage. Like, in the big scheme of things with the Dominion and the Breen and all of that, like, 500,000 Cardassians are nothing. And we slowly start seeing Winn basically phasing Dumar out, and Dumar is starting to realize that siding with the Dominion was a mistake. So, finally... Sorry, I got so many notes for this story. Kai Winn realizes that her visions were coming from the Pahwraiths and not the actual prophets. And so she turns away from Angelo or whatever, Dukat, and is like, no, like, I've been going down the wrong path. Like, this is all a mistake. But finally, out of all of the people she could have chose to talk to, she goes to Kira. And Kira's like, you know, with all of the stuff going on, maybe you should step down from being Kai and look at some other stuff. Basically kind of regroup. And Winn is like, nope, you're wrong. And so she decides to go to the Pahwraiths. And that's kind of how the episode ends, with her going back to Dukat and accepting the Pahwraiths. So that's the end of the first part. In the second part, we see... Oh, and I'm sorry, I missed the part. Dumar helps Ezri and Worf escape. And so the second part starts with Worf and Ezri arriving on the station. And it's kind of funny because they were actually like placing bets on it. And Dr. Bashir's like, well, Morin actually got the right day. He only missed you by like 2 hours, so he won. So I think it's kind of funny. It's morbid, but it's kind of funny that they were actually placing bets on who would get, or how long it would take for them to get back. And like all of this happens before the teaser. Like as they're having this conversation, there's an announcement that the Breen have attacked Earth. And it kind of bothers me that throughout this whole episode, we never actually get any shots of that. We never see the Breen attacking Earth or the damage or anything like that. It's just, we hear about it. So I think that's interesting, but whatever. Dukat talks Kai Winn into releasing the Pahwraiths, and that they've been trapped for all of these years, and that she needs like special books and special equipment and stuff, and they need to be set free. I liked how after Dumar finally comes to terms with the fact that the Cardassians are being trampled on and he doesn't like it, that he stops drinking, and Winn actually notices it. He's like, there's something different about you. Oh, you're not holding a bottle. And I don't know, I thought that was kind of funny. there's a lot of conflict between Sisko and Cassidy, where he actually like requests that she's taken off of the active list because he doesn't want her leaving the station because it's unsafe. And I love how she like brings out this power in herself where she's like, no, you need to change this and get me back on that list. And I mean, being married for 8 years, like I've seen that where I try to do something for my husband and he's like, no, you need to reverse it. And it's like, okay, I'll take care of this. Bye. And sure enough, she's back on the active list, and they forgive each other. But it's a great scene. There's kind of a funny scene. I love the scene. As somebody, like, I love Star Trek. As you can all see, I have lots of art behind me. I have lots of collectibles. I have lots of things that I've collected over the years. I'm kind of a hoarder. I collect a lot of stuff. And I loved the scene where Worf is making fun of Dr. Bashir and Chief O'Brien because O'Brien has this whole model, and he's like, or somebody calls it a toy, and he's like, it's not a toy, it's a model. And that's kind of like my husband. He'll be talking about me. He's like, oh, he has a whole room full of toys and stuff. I'm like, they're not toys, they're collectibles and stuff like that. So I kind of relate to that. And then sure enough, like, Dr. Bashir loses one of them and just starts a whole fight. And yeah, like if somebody like went into my, because I actually have like a man cave and it has all of my collectibles and stuff all around the room and stuff. Like if somebody went in and lost something, I'd be pissed. Like you have no idea. Probably the biggest moment in this episode is the Defiant is actually destroyed. And like I kind of spoiled it for myself by accident, but even seeing it destroyed on TV, I was taken aback. Like I audibly gasped when it happened because I mean, like, okay, we saw the original Enterprise destroyed, but it lasted through the series and it lasted through a couple of the movies and then it was destroyed. The Enterprise D lasted all the way through the series and into the movie. And then still, it was a big deal. The Defiant, we've only had it for like, what, 5 seasons at this point? But still, or I think we got it at the beginning of season 3. It was really sad to watch the Defiant, and I completely forgotten that it was destroyed. In fact, when they do the season 8 pilot, I think they had mentioned the Defiant. So I don't know if they rebuilt it or what, but I had totally forgot that the Defiant got destroyed. And it was really sad. Like, I took a moment of silence for the Defiant. Probably another really, and see, when it is destroyed, like I was expecting that to be the end of the episode. I actually had to look to see how much time was remaining because that was such a big moment. I was really surprised to see like how much more time this episode had, where there's the whole scene where Winn finds out that Dukat is actually who he is. It's not a Bajoran farmer, it's Gul Dukat. I love how it's her manservant that figures it out, where like Dukat just like bitch slapped him and like knocked all the books out of his hands and stuff like that, and then he realizes who Dukat is and he tries to leave, but Kai Winn stabs him to death, and the blood on the knife is what finally triggers the Pahwraiths books. I loved that. I thought it was really interesting because Kai Winn has always been this really unlikable character, but she's almost like an anti-hero. Like you love to hate her because she's so unlikable, but she has finally gone from this like overly religious kind of crazy type to she is now evil. She is a villain of the story at this point. We talk about how Dumar makes a broadcast that talks about how Cardassians need to like rise up and resist. And finally, the episode kind of ends with an interesting line from Winn, where the cloning factory for the Vorta have been destroyed. And Winn 8 could be the last Winn that we ever see, because if he dies at this point, they can't clone him, they can't bring him back. So overall, a lot of stuff went down in these 2 episodes, but it's a lot of really interesting, and I liked how much conflict happened between the two. So for those who have seen these, what did you think? Like, what did you think about Worf and Ezri returning? What did you think about Dumar and Winn? What did you think about Dukat and Kai Winn, Cassidy and Sisko? There's a lot of couples going on, like not necessarily relationship couples, but a lot of couples. So go ahead, let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys for subscribing. It means a lot to me. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys for the next 2 episodes, When It Rains and The Tacking in the Wind.